Well, hello. Here we are having one of our chats again. And this one was sort of provoked really by what I've seen on, the social media, specifically Facebook. And I've just recently been made an admin of the Psychic World Facebook page. Now, the Psychic World newspaper, as you may well know, is one that I write for, and privileged to be so too, I believe. And I'm their page 3 person. And every month I write something that I hope will be of interest to spiritualists, basically, because it is a spiritualist newspaper, the only one, in fact, that we have in the UK. And very popular it is too, and rightly so. And of course, because of the lockdown situation, it's been even more important than ever, I believe, to receive that printed version of the newspaper through our letterboxes, because we're now not able to pick one up at our local spiritualist centre or church, as we could have done when they were all open. And even more so now is the necessity to be able to interact and to at least see each other on social media. I suppose, situations like we have right now as I'm speaking with you. And I'm just having a quick look to see, because I keep forgetting now. Quick look to see. Hello, everybody. Oh, Chelsea. I hope you like the video I put up of you on Facebook. Speaking of Facebook, yes, we're all here. And the thing is this: that as I said, I was recently made an admin for the Psychic World newspaper Facebook page. And this has only been for the last week or so. And I was increasingly amazed at the kind of approvals for posts I was being asked to make. And some of those posts certainly would not have got in as articles or anything near it to the newspaper proper. And it left me wondering where spiritualism itself is going in all this. And of course, the fact is that spiritualism as a religious movement, as a spiritual pathway, is going on its own sweet way, progressing onward as it should ever, since the beginning of it in 1848. I quickly put that in. And the thing is this, that I found more and more that I was amazed at the variety of posts that I was presented with to actually look at and approve for posting on the Psychic World newspaper page. Well, the thing is that, as I've tried to say to people, the clue is in the fact that Psychic World says proudly that it is the voice of spiritualism. Spiritualism is not a trade. It is not any kind of psychic practice, or spiritualism is a spiritual pathway. And I felt that to reflect Psychic World itself, that the posts on the page should be appropriate to that. So some of the postings quite extraordinary, and very obviously huge money-making opportunities for the people who were presenting those posts. Maybe not presenting those posts, but the people involved in the kinds of things that I was being asked to put on the page. And possibly quite genuinely thinking that it was a good idea. And of course, the thing is this: in Psychic World, As a spiritualist newspaper, of course, it deals with psychics and mediums, healers, and everybody who is involved in spiritualism itself in toto. And it encompasses all kinds of everybody along a wide spectrum, across a wide spectrum of those advertisings. We have, for instance, I've got a paper here so that you can see what I'm talking about. This is a classified advertisements page in Psychic World itself, and in it we have people who happily offer a clairvoyant consultation. Love, money, relationships, credit, debit card costs £30 for 20 minutes, and BT landline, and then it publishes, the chat publishes well, of course, you can make your own you make your decision based on that, don't you? You think, well, do I want to spend that much for that amount of time, or do I want to look for something more to my pocket? Or perhaps you're quite well off and you can afford it anyway, and you think, well, why not? And there are other people that say not an agency, no per minute charges, a telephone consultation, doesn't ask for anything in particular. So this is a past life regression with a hypnotherapist. You can email or something then, and there are people whose names I know in this. And anyway, that's the whole thing. It's actually well worth purchasing. But on the subject of purchasing, the fact is that all these people in here pay to have their advertising presented in this way, whereas on the Facebook page, they're not asked for anything. They're not paying anything. And I think that if it's about money making, that it shouldn't really be on a Facebook page which is devoted to spiritualist matters only, and wouldn't ordinarily carry adverts for individuals, however genuine and however good they are, and whatever the price. Because again, as I said, everybody has a free choice to make of whether they pay X, Y, or Z for a reading, or if they prefer the free readings that are being offered. But the fact is this as well, that in all these huge combines that are putting out very money-making things, they all seem to be offering free readings, and then that you can get extra free readings if you share and like and say wow, and the emoji things, say wow, and you'll be entered into a draw and everything, and somehow or other people get drawn in on this, and then they get smacked with how much it will cost actually to have a reading, and so on and so forth. Well, I believe that's a bit of sharp practice there, maybe genuine business practice, but is spiritualism a business? I don't think it is. I know it isn't. Spiritualism itself is a religious, spiritual pathway. So I won't sort of labour the point too much. What I did want to say on the subject of advertising, I'm unashamedly advertising Psychic World newspaper, of course. And look at this. Psychic World sponsors itself. It sponsors Pulse Talk Radio. And on there you'll see our Reverend Philip Solomon, who is also a columnist. He's a page 2 to my page 3. And this is alternative radio, always good alternative. Pulse Talk Radio, established since 2014. And to listen into the shows, you can go to www.pulsetalkradio.com. There you are, it says that there. And there's a lovely picture of Philip Solomon. And you may probably know that he interviewed me actually recently. about how I came into spiritualism and stuff like that, which people seem to be very interested in. Psychic World actually sponsors that, which is wonderful, isn't it? But you see, in order to sponsor anything, she said as the camera moves with excitement, you have to take on board some money. And again, we have to understand that all these people who, mediums and psychics who are, asking for money or being given money for their work, especially those, I should say, who have spent time themselves in study and have reached a really good level of attainment and skill in the mediumship and psychic line of abilities. Why not? Because we all have to keep body and soul together while we're down here, and we need money to do it. However, as I said before, I think some of the more outrageous, sort of almost, dare I say, American-style marketing that is going on, whose post I was asked to approve, and of course I don't. I mean, if any of others of the admin team feel okay with that, that's fine by me, but not for me. I think that I'd rather stick to the churches and the centres and the mediums and the healers and psychics even that I know work from them and look to their benefit as well. So I just wanted to have a moan about that, I suppose. Well, I wouldn't call it a moan. I just think that we need to differentiate, I think, between various aspects of spiritualism and how it then might descend into being viewed as a trade, which it is not. It is not. But you see, you can understand why some people think it might be. And the other thing is, it brings me to this, that when the new Trade Descriptions Act came in with a European directive, and they repealed the Fraudulent Mediums Act, which used to cover us completely. Genuine mediums had nothing to fear at all, and we could all practice in public and openly, as we couldn't before, because we were likely to get arrested as witches. I kid you not. The Fraudulent Mediums Act replaced the Witchcraft Act of 1735, where if you were caught pretending to conjure up the spirits of the dead, you could be prosecuted. Now, madly, Helen Duncan, who certainly wasn't pretending to conjure up anything of the sort, but used to regularly get communication with what they call the dead. Well, we know they're alive and in another dimension. Oh, hello, everybody. She was arrested and she was convicted, and she had 70 witnesses called to state that she was genuine, and some people of the highest regard in English society. But this was all ignored, and she was sent to prison for that offence. And because of that, her health deteriorated, and unfortunately, she passed the spirit herself too soon. And the Fraudulent Mediums Act was brought through Parliament in 1951. However, that was then dismissed. It was repealed. We don't have it anymore. We were told it was part of the swathe of changes included in this new Trade Descriptions Act. Now, of course, people, Arthur Findlay, the great spiritualist scholar who wrote The Rock of Truth, amongst other great works, Curse of Ignorance and so on, he was very concerned about ignorance. And when he left his home, Stanted Hall, to the Spiritualist National Union to use as a college for psychic and spiritual studies, he was hoping that they would actually institute some educational courses in basic education for some of our mediums who were speakers, to furnish them with sufficient background, common knowledge, shall we say, that they would not make asses of themselves or make mistakes. Now, the mistake that was made wholesale was they looked at the word that this is now going to be the Trade Descriptions Act, and they've all rushed about. Oh, we're now a trade. Oh, all of a sudden, all the organisations started selling their members insurance. Now, I thought to myself, I've got to go out against this, and this is what I did, and this is why our new Christian Spiritualist Society came into being, in actual fact, because I was just infuriated by what I saw going on. The actual spiritualist organisations and spiritualists were being asked to buy insurance, because also they were being told that as some kind of whatever they call it, for the insurance purposes, they had to say that they were doing everything they did for entertainment purposes only, or as an experiment with no guaranteed results. Well, that I just saw red. No way, no way. Either you are a medium or a psychic or a healer, or you are not. If you are, you've no need to tell anybody that you're doing it for fun or that it's an experiment and that you can't guarantee anything, because that makes a nonsense out of your work. If you are a spiritualist, if you are associated with a spiritualist church organisation, there isn't any need to insure yourself or your customers, patients, clients, those that we would say come to you for help, against any harm that you may do them. That's absolute nonsense, isn't it? So anyway, there you go. So what I would say, though, having looked at some of these websites that offer, sort of, you don't even know who you're going to speak with, offering readings and all sorts of stuff, you have to say to yourself, well, caveat emptor, really, buyer beware. But at the same time, you can bet that there are quite a lot of genuine mediums and psychics out there doing work for them, for these sort of combines who get people to contact them and so on. But the fact is this: that if you take somebody's money for a sitting or for any purpose within a spiritualist practice framework, and you don't actually do what you say you're going to do, that you are not able to give that person suitable evidence of survival of their loved one, or you're not able to make them feel better, then one, you should give the money back anyway if you've received money. If you don't, they're entitled to say, well, you've actually done me out of this, and I don't believe that you are what you say you are, and get you prosecuted. But to my knowledge, very, very, very few people who have been buying all this insurance as mediums and healers have been prosecuted. There have been the odd person who is absolutely blatant, and yes, they will be nicked, because that's the law of this land. We are a democracy, we are a free country, and we don't expect our citizens to get ripped off by anybody. And if you are ripped off, you have got redress in the law. So again, as the New Christian Spiritualist Society, plug, we don't offer anybody insurance. God is our insurance. I said, when all this started up, I said, well, nobody's asking the Archbishop of Canterbury to sell insurance to his clergy, because they promise people all sorts of things, in their churches, just as we also promise that they will have eternal life, but they don't actually prove it. So where does that put them? We actually promise there is eternal life, and we prove it through our mediums, through our healers, our practitioners, and admittedly, crystal ball gazing and looking into bowls of water and doing sand readings and aura readings and things like that don't necessarily prove that life is eternal. But it does tell people that there is certainly a spirit dimension to our life, that there's more to life than just the physicality that we know and feel. So there we are. So that's me. It's very nice to see everybody, by the way. And afterwards, I'll go through and sort of put little love hearts on everybody to say that I love you all. That's another much maligned word, isn't it? Love. But of course, love. There's so many different kinds of love, and fortunately for us as human beings, there are all these different kinds of loves. But the basic love equals kind, equals care, and as St. Paul said, equals charity. And you have to have all those things as an actual basis for whatever kind of love after that you pile on top of it, whether it's love for a partner, love for your parents, grandparents, love for family, love for your children. And I remember once, just to bore you, a long time ago, when I was expecting my second child, I said to my grandmother, my dad's mum, I'm very worried because I love, and I won't use her name. I love her so much. I don't think I have any love left for another child. And my grandma said, it will bring its love with it. The love comes with the child. And I've never forgotten that, because of course that is exactly what happened. And the fact is that love is there with every human being. Every human being that's born arrives from love and brings love with it. And I think we do well to actually remember that, because sometimes there are people who we feel are very unlovable, but we have to do our best to remember that they did bring love with them when they came to this world. So we have to look for that. Now then, I made some little notes here, and when I picked it up, it was just my notes on what copy is coming for the Little Port Life magazine, the community magazine that I do. But so we'll quickly skip over that notes, which reminds me of Winston Churchill and his notes. He was giving a speech one day, and he kept glancing at this little card that he had, and put it down and go on and say more, and then look again. At the end of it, somebody spoke with him and said, "Excuse me, Sir Winston, but may we see your notes? Because it would be very helpful to us when we write it up." And he said, "I haven't actually got any notes. This is my laundry list." He said it just imbues confidence in the listeners to think that I have notes. I've always remembered that one. So there you are. You see, I picked up my notes that weren't. Anyway, I did make a couple of notes because I thought to myself, when I start rambling on, I need to be brought back in some way to the matter in hand and the reason that everybody's sort of tuned in the first place. And I suppose really we get back to the fact that spiritualism itself should not be taken as just some kind of joke. It's neither funny nor experimental, and really, I think that people should be able to make a living, even if they do that, from their work as mediums and healers, but not to be too sharp practiced about it, and to be honest and upfront about how much something may cost, and allow people to make their decision based on that, and not to bamboozle them with a load of sort of flickering candles, crystal balls and Ouija boards. I saw that. I thought, what? And then, I thought, okay, let's have a look. So I actually, I do actually listen to all these presentations that I'm asked to approve before I disapprove of them. And one looked amazing. They had an old-fashioned sort of Ouija board thing laid out, flickering candles. They had a planchette. Didn't have anything in it, just a sort of whole. and it all looked very nicely laid out. You didn't see the people concerned, you just saw their hands moving the objects around. And they weren't really saying very much either, which was quite disappointing. So I thought, no, too much stage dressing and not enough substance, perhaps. So that's another thing, watch out for all this. In the old days, of course, it was a tent and a lady with a scarf, large earrings, and a crystal ball. Well, I'm sure that people got a really good deal out of that too, because I love looking at crystal balls, as you probably know, and I teach people how to look at. Well, I taught people how to look into crystal balls, and really, if they wanted to set up shop on the end of Brighton Pier, then why not? Because I would know that those that I taught would actually know how to look into a crystal ball, would know how to read what they saw in it, and to give messages from that. And of course, the other thing is that all of these various psychic practices link us up with them upstairs, because apart from the ones that are standing there looking over my shoulder now, appalled at various things, there is a route from the psychic to the spirit. It's linked up, and it's recognizing that is how we study and how we develop our abilities. So there. Spirit boxes. Paul Smith says, do I approve of spirit boxes, Lynn? What is a spirit box, Paul? You'll have to enlighten me. A spirit box sounds absolutely fascinating. Are you talking about a voice box or a cabinet? What kind of box? I'm sure that I'm not the only person who doesn't understand what a spirit box is. So, Paul, if you would tell us now on this message thread, I think I can put that on. Look, there you are. That's what I'm saying. I don't know anything about. Spirit. Paul, if you would quickly tell me, you're a bit slow, mate, on the old index finger typing. But I think I approve of everything that's to do with exploring spirit and the world of spirit. There's nothing that actually prevents knowledge and the progress of knowledge than the closed mind. The person who won't actually open their mind to any possibilities. So, adapted radio. Oh yes, we used to call that EVP, electronic voice phenomena. Yes, of course, and I've heard amazing things. And my friend was years ago was in the forefront of experiments with electronic voice phenomena, taping sounds, and yes, amazing. I think it's a ghost hunters to capture spirit. Yeah. Oh, right. Thank you. So I'll put that up so that people can see. Here we are. Used by ghost hunters to capture. Yes. Well, the other thing is this: that one mustn't open one's mind so much that one's brain falls out either. And the fact is that there are voices coming through the ether at us that are generated by earthly means, like this, for instance. I am speaking with you because of how everything works electronically. And it may be quite possible for voices to be picked up or transmissions to be picked up, provided you have the receiver. And it may not necessarily be from spirit. That's all I would say about that. I remember my grandfather telling me about the times that they used to have, they got the first cat's whisker radios, sort of crystals with little antennae, and they would find a radio station and pick it up on that. So the thing is this, that they were picking up real people and physical people down here. And I guess it's quite possible to pick up those who are discarnate, who are disembodied, as long as you've got the right equipment. But imagine how fine that equipment's got to be to pick that up. Yes, so the yes, the frequency of spirit, as we know, is much faster than the frequency on the earth plane. But again, we have to consider carefully each result that we hear on its own merit, and you have to decide for yourself about the equipment that's being used, the standard, and indeed what those spirit voices are saying. Now, the other thing is this: that in the same way as a Ouija board could be said to pick up low-level frequency entities. Now, that's a nice way of saying bad spirit. If there's good people on the earth, there's bad people on the earth. Similarly, good people in spirit, bad people in spirit. And the bad people in spirit are very, very, very still close to the earth plane, because here is where it all happens, isn't it? On the earth. So you may just get people, and especially on this sort of ghost hunt thing, you may just get people who are very, very close to the earth plane, and you may just get their emanations. I'm not saying that they're not their emanations. I'm actually saying they are their emanations, and they may not be worth listening to. Yes, must always use protection. Well, I always say prayer is good protection. Jesus wasn't wrong. Moses wasn't wrong. Muhammad wasn't wrong. None of them were wrong. You have to pray, because that prayer links you with the highest vibration. Prayer goes out on a frequency that is picked up by the highest. And the other thing is that it will prevent the nasties, or the umnagatis, as Charles Dickens used to call them, from getting close to you. So yes, but I think a bit of ghost hunting is quite good fun. But it makes me wonder why people hunt them. Because sometimes, ghosts are just basically like video recordings. They're just sort of impressions on the ether. And that's I would say that's why very often ghosts don't talk back. They're just apparitions. They're literally apparitions. The Civil War is fought in the English Civil War, that is, and I'm sure the American Civil War too. The English Civil War is fought here and there. It still reprises itself in some areas where the level of misery and therefore psychic negativity was at its height, and it's impressed itself on the very air that is in that place, on the place itself, and so it reprises. But they're not situations where you can actually talk to anybody. You may hear them, but you can't get any response. It's not a non-response situation. Anthony Gopal, hello everyone. Oh, I'm going to put that up now, because that is something that I would like to think is one of the offshoots of my videos. Yes. So anyway, I don't know how long we've been chatting for. Oh, I say not too long, half an hour or so, just over half an hour. And if you've got any other questions you want to ask about anything, you're very welcome, anybody. Yes, I had a friend and her husband who went looking for a ghost in Borley Rectory. And in fact, you'll find their report about that on my my own website, which is www.lynguestdeswalt.com. If you have a look on that, there's all sorts of articles and things about all the things that we talk about, all the things that we're interested in spiritualism. And of course, it is free. You could always donate to help me along if you liked, sort of, because you have to pay for these things, don't you? But yes, so do have a look at that, because my friend the Sparks, and Dee Sparks, who's now Pastor Spirit herself, she was a wonderful medium and healer, and a minister too. And I remember the day of her ordination, which was wonderful, at her own spiritual sanctuary in Bury St Edmunds, and wonderful person, and her husband, of course, Peter. And they went along to Borley Rectory, and you can see the report there. I'm sure you'll love it. Oh, Chelsea, oh, that's really nice, Chelsea. There you are, make you famous. Yes. I think it's very nice that we have a very wide spectrum of ages. And I'm very flattered indeed that young people like Chelsea find my talks of any interest to them. I try not to be too ancient in my attitudes. Now, this thing about Philip Solomon, I want to say to you, Psychic World, as I mentioned, actually sponsors Philip's, well, not Philip's thing, it's not his, but they sponsor Pulse Radio, on which Philip appears, and on which he has interviewed me. Here we are. I say I don't do anything without spirit help. Well, I couldn't, could I? I'd be useless. More useless than I am. So there it is. There, you see. There, look. Look on this. That's where you can find him, and he's there. Let me tell you, the Paranormal World of Philip Solomon, every Thursday from 6 to 8. With Rev Philip Solomon, www.philipsolomon.co.uk. So there we are, and this is just wonderful. And there are loads of books that you can buy from Psychic World as well, like this one by Martin Colclough, Simply Trance Mediumship, A Beginner's Guide. Wow, if you fancy doing that, it's marvelous actually to do that. That means that you have to elevate your consciousness to that much higher frequency. We were talking about fast frequencies, and you can learn to do that, and you get all sorts of marvelous communications from those more sort of rarefied angelic people up there. And that Simply Transfer, you can get that from Consci Publications, which is also Candy Taylor's business. She's the publishing editor of Psychic World, and of course I knew her father, as I would. Wonderful man, Ray Taylor, wonderful. And we've got and Minister Martin Colclough, who we just mentioned about his book. Can you see that? There he is there. There's him there. There's so many wonderful articles in it, but there's also these marvellous books. And here we've got The Voice of Spirit, inspired as always by Spirit, Leo Bonomo, who he also had the misfortune to interview me for one of his radio programs that he does. I know loads of people who do all sorts of stuff on the media, and now of course we're more reliant on it, which gets us back. And here we get the Communion of Spirits there. Look at that. And the Ministry of Angels by Leonard Tatt. Well, I know him as Len, of course, because I sat in circle with him all those years ago in that wonderful medium Betty Stewart circle in Eltham there. And that was so many years ago. And we were very young, and I don't like to say whether or not. Let's have a look at. He definitely had more hair then. And look, and Norwich Spiritualist Church President Linda Smith's gone over there as well. Oh, God bless her. and the congregation, of course, which is left behind here to manage. But there's so many wonderful things in this paper that, you know, I found it a real honour to be asked by Candy to admin the Facebook page of it. But then, as I say, I saw more and more stuff coming in that I thought, one, it wouldn't make any pages in the Psychic World newspaper, and two, they seem to be making a lot of money and they're not offering any money to help the newspaper. So, you know, it is a newspaper after all. And as I said, do have a go at, oh, look at this, look, silver birch, wonderful, wonderful. Candy also publishes silver birch, absolutely fantastic. And here is the Healing Sanctuary, Harry Edwards. Now, do you know what? He set that up on pure donation only basis, the Harry Edwards Healing Sanctuary. So there we are. So I would say to you that if you fancy subscribing, because that's the only way now you're going to get the newspaper. If you fancy subscribing to Psychic World newspaper, you can ring the office and pay by card if you wish, and that's 0208 903 1993. And Candy should be there, somebody in the office, and they can help you with that. Or you can send a cheque for £15 or 20 if you're overseas. PO Box 14, Greenford, Middlesex, UB6 OUF or 0UF. And just put your name and address on that, and you get 12 issues of the paper sent to you for that money. And I mean, I was surprised that cigarettes cost that much now. You know, so for the price really of a couple of packets of fags, you can get all this spiritual enlightenment and read all these different articles from all sorts of wonderful people in the spiritualist movement. And they're all kinds of different spiritualists, as we know. I'm a Christian spiritualist, obviously, and many spiritualists are actually Christians. We know that, but they're also Jewish or Muslims, Buddhists, all kinds of different religious backgrounds come together within spiritualism, and we all love each other very much. And the odd squabbles that go on in the churches, we have to just get over, because, you know, wherever you get a few human beings together, you're going to get arguments, aren't you, regardless. And I'm sure there are some people who would like to argue with me, but they don't get the opportunity, because here I am, like a sort of ghostly presence that you can't actually argue with. Oh, Anthony. Oh, well, my voice sometimes does get raised. Mostly at the dogs now. It used to be raised at my children. But, you know, when push comes to shove, we have to try and pour oil on troubled waters. And we're all wading our way through the troubled waters at the moment. And we all have our own problems. And therefore, that happily brings me to the part in my talk where I always launch into something about praying, asking for help, looking at ways we can deal with our turmoil, our troubles. And every individual suffers in a unique way. In just the same way as we come into this world uniquely, we suffer uniquely. And although there are common factors in humanity, each one of us feels things keenly as an individual, don't we? And that, of course, is the basis for our mediumship, because when people come through and make themselves known to us, we can identify them to their loved ones by some unique aspects of that person's individuality. And it's so wonderful, isn't it? People who say they don't believe in God, I feel sorry for. And I watched a service yesterday morning from an Anglican cathedral, and it was very lovely, except that here and there I took issue with what was being said. And on one occasion only, I did not say Amen, because I couldn't agree with the prayer that was being said and how it was presented. But other than that, it was lovely, uplifting. Now, so we need to think how we can best help ourselves, really, by looking outward and thinking about others who are worse off than us. Whatever we're suffering, there's always somebody who's worse off, and that's the awful fact of life. So, we ask always for other people's welfare and well-being, and I've been receiving people's names who are in need of healing thoughts and asking for healing for them. And one little girl, I'd ask you to put in your prayers, and as I put her in mine, Isla Caton, struggling with cancer and chemo at the moment. And I would also ask you to keep in your thoughts and prayers Timon, for the same reason, and everybody else who is having a battle with cancer at the moment. We must also, of course, pray for all those who are suffering under this lockdown situation and in the pandemic. And we must ask for everybody of all ages that they be kept safe. And if they do get this awful virus, this awful bug, that their symptoms won't be life-threatening, that it won't be too debilitating for them, that they'll actually recover from the ailment. We ask also, dear Lord, that our scientists actually come up with a real antidote to all these viruses. And let us not forget that it's people who are eating wild animals and domestic animals that started all this. And we ask, dear Lord, for understanding to be put in their hearts and minds, that they realise that they should not eat our companion animals, or indeed wild animals, and they're all entitled to their lives. And we ask, dear Lord, for that to take place as soon as you can. And that's the thing. Prayers don't have to be formal. You don't have to perform any ritual, light candles or eat certain food or do anything at all. And as Jesus said, it's not what you put in you that defiles you so much as what you put out of your mouth that does the damage. But I think that in these circumstances, about what you put in you does seem to matter, and it has had a terrible effect on the whole world. And nobody is talking about that, and I think that needs to be mentioned. And I think that if you would like to say a little prayer with me before we part company this morning. Dear Lord, we ask in your name for all those who are sick and suffering at this time, that it may please thee to heal them, to give them some comfort, light in their darkness, and love where they are feeling unloved. We ask that all those who are praying to you, dear Lord, in their extreme, are given comfort and easement and realise that they are indeed loved. Let the light of the Almighty shine on all of us, bless us, and give us inner peace. Amen. There. So I hope you've enjoyed the little chat with me today, and it's given you some food for thought. And don't forget about that psychic world. That's the sub-form, by the way. Put it up because I knew the right way to do it. That's some information that I think if you sort of watch this again, you can sort of stop it, can't you? And sort of look at things. Oh, it's to do with that. They're telling me upstairs I'm holding it wrong. I don't need other people to criticise me. My guides and helpers criticise me. All I need. There. That's right. Yes. Thank you. Now they're telling me that's a good one. Yes. But you see, if you're interested to have a look at Psychic World newspaper Facebook page, do have a look, because lots of the churches and things advertise on there where they're having their Zoom meetings and so on and so forth. And various people who've written books put odd things on there and stuff like that. And also don't forget, there's a new Christian Spiritualist Society page that you might like to have a look at. And if you just put spiritualist, I suppose, in the search bar, you'll find all sorts of things, all sorts of churches and stuff like that if you're interested. So I hope that you have a decentish day. Monday had a bad reputation, but of course in this day and age it's somewhat different, because the days seem to run into each other, don't they, where people aren't actually going off to work. Now we have to remember the key workers and those in the NHS and all the doctors and nurses and physicians and medical people, carers, everybody who is doing such a wonderful job in dreadful conditions, and we ask them to be kept safe, of course, and we thank them very much for all they've done, and we keep them in our prayers too. Oh, Norman. now Norman, he was the president of a church, and him and his lovely wife were on a platform with me once at Rochester Square Temple, never to be forgotten day. And we had a whole day of sort of various workshops and things talking about sort of psychic practices and spiritual practice. And the whole event was rounded off by us all cramming onto the platform there and taking turns to give communications from spirit. So that was a jolly good day, wasn't it, Norman? Paul, yes, and thank you for enlightening me about what a spirit box was. You actually, it conjures up the most amazing images, doesn't it? A spirit box. I'd like a box of spirit. Of course, we can have it. It's all around us, and I think the nicest present I ever got was a little box, and it said on the outside, "You don't have to open this because it actually doesn't have anything in it except love." So. Yes, it was a long time ago, wasn't it, in Auburn? Yes, I was quite sprightly then. I guess we all were. And of course, we must remember our pioneers who have gone, and Maureen Chapman, who was then the president of Rochester Square Temple, is now passed over, and she was a wonderful, wonderful woman as well. So. There's lots of good people have been here and are now in the world of spirit. But I'm sure they're all keeping a watching brief, and they're all helping various people who are in this way of life to, progress their own spiritual pathway. And, I think that we have now come to the end of our time together. And of course, if you would like meditations and things like that, I have this YouTube channel as well. And of course, that's free. It's Lyn Gibb-de, and you can actually have meditations on there with me. And there is a meditation CD that's not too ancient now. You can get it on Spotify and all these various other things. Reverend Nick Brown put it on there for me. But you can get that, or you can buy tracks on Amazon, I think. So if you look for, I'm not sure what it's called, but Iconoclast Meditations with Spirit or something like that, and it's my name, Lyn Gibb-de, I think it says, and you can get meditation tracks and things like that. So yes, generally speaking, there's development to be had out there. There's a lot of spirituality about, and that's what we have to hold on to. And don't forget, I'm not being unduly critical of any of those people who are, working full time as mediums and psychics out there and making a living at it. But for the purposes of the Psychic World newspaper, I would only mention that there should be paid advertising, and because the newspaper is being printed, that people who would like to advertise in Psychic World should do so. And the Psychic World newspaper Facebook page is really just for a reflection of the newspaper itself and its contributors and articles and so on, and the churches that have always supported it. So I say God bless you, and oh, that's nice, thank you, and all of you too. I do care very much about everybody, and I'm so glad that I do know many people personally and as in individuals, and I love that aspect of the work. So thank you again for being my friend, and I look forward to having a chat with you again and seeing you on Facebook. And I hope that if you go and have a look at my website, you'll find some very interesting stuff on there. And if you would like to have any kind of conversation with me about it, you'd be very welcome. I'll do some other kind of, obviously, all being well, I'll do another one of these video things. And I see Kathy is just walking past the window here and smiling in at me. So obviously she decided to take Daisy for a walk. There, I'm sure you needed to know that. Well, God bless everybody. Goodbye for now. And we're now signing off.